to another video from Creativo Solutions. You're currently watching the Finance for Non-Financial Managers video series. I hope these videos are helping you. If you do have any comments or questions, please post them below. And if you subscribe to this channel, you'll be the first to find out when new videos are uploaded. Visit the website for more content and resources to help you. We do have an Instagram and Twitter page, so please follow us on Instagram and Twitter and keep watching our YouTube channel for more support. In the previous video, we looked at the agency problem. To summarize, the agency problem is a conflict of interest. We know financial managers are required to maximize value by utilizing those limited resources within the company. So we need to look at value versus profit. When focusing on value, we're trying to build more value in the business so that there will be profit going forward. If we're creating value, we should be profitable. Value should always come first. Profit shouldn't be the motive to drive decision making within the business. We know we get two groups. We get shareholders, which are the owners of the business, and they're focused on a return on investment. So for them, their priority is on profit. When looking at employees are the stakeholders and they're looking for improved benefits. So they want the incentives. So there's definitely going to be a conflict of interest that could possibly arise, and we need to try and mitigate that. So please watch the previous video if you're wanting more information about the agency problem. In this video, we're going to be focusing on how to create value. When looking at a financial manager's role, they're focusing on those limited resources and they need to try and maximize as much value as possible within the business. So when looking at creating value, we need to establish what the risk is and we need to compare that to the return. So all business decisions are going to have a certain amount of risk and potential return, and there'll be many different options to consider. There could be different projects, different investments, different products or services that we could offer, and all of them carry a certain amount of risk and all of them will offer a certain amount of return. In order to create value, we need to weigh up the risk and the return. We need to look at both the risk and the return in order to make a decision on whether or not to proceed with a particular project or investment or product or service. So the decision making is always going to come back to creating value and weighing up the pros and the cons, or in this case the risk versus the return. So you might be wondering what risk is. Well, risk would be uncertainty. No one knows what's going to happen in the future. So things can occur that's going to help the business, or things can occur that will harm the business. Managers need to manage the risk and they need to focus on maximizing the return in order to create more value within the business. So when looking at risk and return, if we're looking at the relationship between risk and return, there's a linear relationship which is upward sloping. So when looking at return and risk, if the financial manager is going to be taking on more risk, they would hope for a bigger return, because the risk and the return need to be attractive enough in order to justify taking that risk. Because remember, we've got limited resources, so those resources could be used in other areas of the business. We need to decide if we're going to be allocating resources in a particular project or an investment. Is that project or investment going to give us a good return, or will it add more value to the business? So when focusing on risk and return, we can also consider it as cost versus benefit. When taking a risk, that risk will be justified only if the expected outcome would exceed a particular level in terms of what we're comfortable with. So the risk is what we're looking at in terms of the uncertainty. Are we happy to take on that risk, not knowing what will materialize in the future, but having an idea or having an expectation of what is going to occur in the future would hopefully justify taking that risk. So if we can expect a really big return, we would then consider taking that risk. But if we expected a very small return, we would maybe think twice about taking that risk or doing that project, because remember, that project will have a certain level of risk, and some projects are more risky than others, and that will definitely affect decision making. So we know risk means uncertainty. No one is going to know what's going to happen in the future. So when focusing on decision making, the decisions we make within the business needs to focus on creating more value. There's always a risk-reward analysis that financial managers need to do in order to determine which projects are the best, or which assets are the best. It could be which products or services are the best in terms of generating the biggest possible return for that particular level of risk. So in a previous video, we spoke about this debate around retrenchments or layoffs, and we compared that to the employee benefits. From a decision-making point of view, what is better? Are we going to be retrenching or laying off staff in order to help reduce costs and hopefully help the business increase profit by the reduction in costs? Or are we going to focus more on providing the employees with more benefits to maybe incentivize them to maybe work harder, or to work more hours perhaps, or to work a lot more productively within the actual organization? So the big debate is retrenchments versus employee benefits. Both carry a specific amount of risk. The retrenchments would be risk from a reputational point of view. No company wants to lay off or retrench many of its workers. That can give a very negative view towards the management of the organization, because they're choosing to retrench or lay off staff, and the staff aren't going to be very positive about that scenario. But if we are going to be retrenching staff, we're definitely going to be increasing the profit, because there will be a reduction of costs. So if we're reducing costs, that can also help the business, because value should be increasing because there are lower costs. Employee benefits would cost more for the business, but hopefully they improve the morale within the organization. And with an increase in morale, hopefully there'll be an increase in productivity as well. So the big debate here is around, is it worth taking that risk? Are we going to be going the retrenchment route and laying off staff, or are we going to be going more towards the benefits, where we're going to be incentivizing employees and creating more benefits within that organization? So what creates the most value is the question we always need to answer. And when answering that question, we need to always consider the cost versus the benefit, or the risk versus the reward. What is going to generate the most value? Value is the focus, and all decisions need to be focused on value. We need to establish the amount of risk in a particular decision, and we need to establish what the expected outcome is. And if the outcome is big enough to justify the risk, that project would then be seen as one that could be accepted in order to help build and create more value within the business. Always remember, risk is uncertainty, and it's always something that we need to consider when making decisions. And that's the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to the channel, comment below, and hit the thumbs up button if you like the video, and I'll keep making more videos to help you.